Hello and welcome to today's podcast. And this podcast is episode 36. If you are new around here, I am Kim from Kim's Wellness Space on Instagram. I know quite a lot of you have listened to previous. I don't know what's going on there. Let's just get rid of that. Previous episodes. If you haven't, I would highly recommend you go back and listen to them. I have interviewed and chatted along to some amazing women this year, and it's my privilege today to talk to Becci, who is a published author. So let's get her in the studio so we can start chatting. Welcome, Becci.
Hello, thank you for having me. How
You're
exciting.
so welcome. It is really exciting. And I feel like I've got loads of questions. So I'm just going to try and pull back a little bit and sort of let it flow rather than sort of just bombarding you with
It's so
everything.
bizarre, isn't it? Because we talk online, but we don't talk.
Yes.
I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. And so for anyone that is listening, just to give you a little bit of background, Becky and I actually have been chatting on Instagram for a number of years, I would say. I can't even remember how long it is.
Yeah.
And I had the absolute privilege to proofread Becci's book, and I have to tell you, it is amazing. So I'm really excited to be able to have her as a guest and share all this. So let's pull it right back to the beginning. When did the idea of this book first start to form in your head?
February 2019. It was my birthday and we were going out for dinner, and all my life I'd written fictional stories. So if ever there was anything that upset me as a child and I felt hard done by, that might not have been the actual truth of it, but I felt it was valid, and so I would write this story about this poor girl who was just mistreated, and I'd write like an alternate ending, and I'd make the characters these villains, or I'd make the ending suit how I kind of wanted it to. And then as I got older and life got harder, and big things started happening to me, I would do the same. I'd write it as a fictional story that these, horrible people had come and taken this naive girl and changed who I was, and written this fictional story about it. Then I was in a really violent relationship when I was 16 for a couple of years. And I used to, instead of writing stories, I'd write fictional diary entries of the life I wished I had been living, so that if he read it, he didn't think I was bitching about him. I was writing this life that he could look at and say was perfect. And so then I met my husband, and he is in the book, and as one of the characters, because I felt I needed that character in my life. And I was writing fictional stories, but I realized they were all things from my past. I was kind of just rewriting things I'd written a million times, just in different ways. And I found it hugely cathartic, but I'd also gotten to a point where I was like, oh, I'm not writing about things I'm experiencing anymore. I've helped myself through so much pain and trauma, by doing this writing and just expressing myself in this fictional way. It really helped me to see it from a different perspective, and sometimes actually see, oh my gosh, why am I still in this situation? Why haven't I changed it? And then, it was my birthday, February 2019, and I just said to my husband, I think it needs to be a non-fiction. I think I need to try and help other people to be able to help themselves if they don't have the resources available to them to support them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. It's really interesting, actually, listening to you say that, because when I was thinking about what I was going to write in the show notes after we chatted today, I was trying to think what genre your book would come under. And I was thinking, well, it is a self-help book, but actually that only kind of just scratches the surface. There's so much more to it than that. And I think that's why it's so compelling to read.
Oh, bless you. I think I really love that everyone that's read it has said it's just such a good idea. Like it's just a really good, you know, I think because I enjoy writing, not everyone loves writing. I love writing and it's always been my go-to. And if I'm in the middle of a problem and a stressful thing, I'll write a poem
Yeah.
about it because I find that really easy to just go, oh, I have that. Um, and then later I'll turn it into this long old story. And so I think the book, I'm trying to help the reader to write their own story
Yes.
and to realize that their perspective, their perception on their situation is completely valid. It may not always be like when you look at something from a different perspective, you can suddenly see, oh, maybe I was a little bit, you
Yes.
know, I probably didn't need to react like that. But when you can turn it into a fictional story, you can see it from a totally different perspective and you can say, oh, maybe this is the problem, or maybe I'm in this situation for all the wrong reasons, or I've been in it for too long and I should have taken myself out by now. Or you can kind of see it differently. And I
Yeah.
think for me, a big part as well was when you suffer with a traumatic experience like I did as you know, when I was younger, you tend to block out chunks of your life because you think, I just don't want to remember any of my teenage years.
Yeah.
And what can be really hard in doing that is you've also blocked out all the happy memories in between, the people that were sent to cheer you up on the hardest of days, or the smallest of gestures that were made by someone that really pulled you through those dark days. The reason you're here today fighting, still going, is
Yeah.
because of all of those little bits. And so I think sometimes when you can go back and say, right, this is hard, but I already know the pain, I've carried that around with me.
Yes.
You try and forget it, but you don't. And so you just carry around this kind of black cloud. And I think when you can go back and say, actually, who were the people? What were the situations that helped me get through it, and keep fighting and keep trying and keep thinking there was something worth it at the end of it? Because there's times when it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is why your book's so unique. So for me as the reader, it was easy for me to read it as like a fictional, oh yes, there's these characters, or like, but then to actually go back and read it and be like, am I being an evil queen in this situation? That's much harder to be like, yeah, not really. I'm not like that. But actually, of course, there's
Yeah.
bits of it in all of us, and
Oh
it
gosh,
does
yeah.
really help you to recognise, or maybe that wasn't so good, or
Hmm.
equally, like actually, I was really nice that day, or I did something
Yeah.
worthwhile, or so yeah.
I think
So
it validates your own experience of something, because I think also we can try and I think it can be so easy to think, oh, maybe I overreacted, or maybe I'm, you know, and I think sometimes we actually need to validate that. Actually, no, I had a right to feel like I did.
yes,
Or yeah, you know, something I'm currently going through, and actually I'm writing the next book, the follow-on book, is how we embody the villains, and how easy it is sometimes to be pinned as a villain when you're trying really hard not to. And you know, and sometimes you just have to say, okay, if you need a bad guy, I don't want to
yeah,
be, but if that's who you need me to be in your story, then yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So before we go any further, tell us what
Mhm.
your book is called.
Once Upon a Real Life
Fabulous. Yay. Looks
is what
so
I
good,
named
doesn't
it.
it? In the hard copy. It's amazing.
I
Um,
know.
and so we have alluded quite a lot to these different characters and villains and what have you. So can you share with us kind of what the book's about and how people can use it? Like, how is it set out?
Okay, so oh gosh, it's such a hard book to explain,
It
and I
is.
know that sounds really silly because I wrote it. So it goes through all the different characters you may encounter, not all of them, but as many as I could, kind of through my coaching clients and my tarot clients, and just general life. I try to think of characters that are generally in most people's lives.
Yes.
So you go through and you read all the different characters, allies, so people that would be helpful in your story, the people that we would forget about when we're blocking out a chunk of time. Um, the inner characters that we have. I love inner child work. It's something I'm so passionate about, and so for me that's a big part of the story. That's one of the characters is Pan and Shadow, and how they interact. And then you've got the villains. So we're going through all the characters in the book, how they show up in real life, because they are fictional characters, but how do they show up in real life? Rumpelstiltskin is one that people tend to be able to say, yeah, I know exactly who you mean when I describe Rumpelstiltskin. And then, so we go through the characters in the book, and then it starts to explain how to put them into your life, because I think sometimes if you're not used to making your life fiction, for the sake of looking at it from a different perspective, it can be really hard to understand how it's such a weird concept. I've got like whenever anyone says to me, what's your book about, I'm like and so then I try and help the reader to write their life in chapters. So you go back and you have a look at when you may have dealt with a Rumpelstiltskin or a wicked witch at school. And then it helps you to understand, one, that you have defeated or survived every single battle with a villain so far.
Yeah.
And two, it can kind of help you to see, like my husband now is forever coming home from work going, oh, I met a Rumpelstiltskin today. And so he knows how to deal with that kind of person, that kind of character. There's certain character traits that they have, that Rumpelstiltskin has, or a wicked witch or an evil queen has. And when you know it and you see it, when you meet someone, you can be like, oh, okay, I know how to deal with you because I've read once upon a real life. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's really good. And you were saying that it changes your perspective. But I think, so for me, in my day to day, yoga is a big thing. And that gives me space for me to think things through, to work things out, to realize how things are affecting me or how I might be affecting others. And this is exactly the same thing. It just, you can put your story there, but stand there and look at it. So you don't feel the pain quite so much, or the anger, or the whatever the emotion is. And like you say, it's validated and you're allowed to feel that. But actually you can also poke around a bit and be like, well, you know, what's happening here really? Because we don't always acknowledge what we're feeling, do we?
Not at all. I think we're so quick to just feel better, or to just move on, or just dust it off. And I think that's been half of my problem throughout my life, is that but I think that's what the writing has helped me with throughout my life, is you're told so many times to kind of just, oh, it'll be fine, you know, and sometimes it's not, and sometimes you need to explore things without kind of, it can be a difficult rabbit hole, because you have to remember, if you're reliving something or retelling something, you're not experiencing it again. One thing I struggled with a couple of years ago, I felt like I was reliving an experience that had really affected me, and so I had to just keep reminding myself every day. And that's one of the things about the book, is I think if you can really delve into something in the safety of your current situation, then you can remind yourself, I'm safe, I'm okay, and I'm choosing to have a look at this and then see how it's affected me and how it's changed me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think probably this is a good moment to just précis all of this with, if you are reliving something that was, you know, really affecting you, very traumatic, and you need extra support, we 100% want you to go find that
Oh
extra
my goodness,
support.
yeah, 100%. I think that is so important. You have to be able to know when, I can't deal with this on my own, I need help. I need professional help. I've had to seek that, because there's only so much you can do before you say, actually, this isn't working and I need help to get through this. It's I think that's another thing though, isn't it? Like, we spent years thinking that was something you shouldn't, like it was a kind of weakness if you sought help, but it's not. I think it's so empowering to be able to say, I need help is one of the biggest things that you can do in your life, and one of the bravest things you can do.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And actually, I was having this conversation with someone last week, and we were saying actually we all ask for help in different things, and it's not usually that momentum of massive. Oh my goodness, now I can't cope anymore. I've got, but actually, all through our lives, there's different people there supporting us or helping us or coaching us without us realizing.
Fairy
You know,
godmothers.
yeah. How often do we say, "Oh, I just want to pick your brain about something." That's
Yeah.
asking for support, isn't it? So,
Yeah. I think it can
um
be so hard.
oh,
Am I there?
yes, you are. It's okay.
Sorry, I think that's what happens when you use your phone, isn't it? Bear with me. Let me
Yeah,
put my
don't worry, it's
there
fine.
we go. Um, yeah, I think that's what's really hard is you can meet up with friends and you don't want to burden somebody.
Yes,
But actually, I think sometimes one of the things I always say to my friends is, you don't know how good it makes me feel to be able to help you, to be able
yes,
to for you to say, "Oh, you really helped me with that." That makes me feel really good. So
yes,
I'm okay with that. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, it is difficult to ask for help sometimes, but we see all the different ways people can help, but sometimes, yeah, it can be really, really difficult.
yeah, absolutely. So in your book, have you got a favorite character, and have you got one that you really struggle with yourself that kind of maybe irritates you, or you I don't know, you find
My
difficult to?
Yeah, I think I think my favorite has to be Pan. Pan and Shadow, because it is something I'm super passionate about. um I think, yeah, I love inner child work. I think it's so an incredibly life changing when you can really work with your inner child. And I think because I'm such a I am a big kid, that I think I understand that so much.
Yes,
And yeah, so I think Pan's probably, and I mean all the fairy godmother. I love the fairy godmother because they have literally, without realizing and without me realizing at the time, changed my life. Changed
yes,
my life. Changed how I look at myself. Without me realizing, I can look back and go, "Oh my god, that person changed my life, kept me going."
yes.
And I think that's I mean, my husband's going to want me to say knight in shining armor, so I'll say that. The hardest one, I think the most relatable two characters that are difficult to deal with as villains are the townsfolk and the Rumpelstiltskin. I'd
Yeah,
say Rumpelstiltskin um, is a tricky character that we all come across in some way, just someone that's incredibly self-centered, narrow-minded, and will use people to get what they want. Um, and in the book, I typically describe them as what you would think of a boss. Now, this doesn't mean that all bosses are Rumpelstiltskins,
yeah,
but it's just that they're the easiest one to kind of explain how a Rumpelstiltskin works. They're the kind of person that offers you the world at interview day. They're like, "Oh my god, you're amazing!" Just praises you with it, like showers you with compliments. "You're amazing. You're perfect for the role." Yep. Um, oh god, there's loads of offers of promotion and this, that, and the other. And then once you're in the job, you get the cold shoulder, and
yeah,
you're just a number. And so that's your typical kind of Rumpelstiltskin. The townsfolk are, I mean, I think, again, I overthink everything, so this book is written from my perspective, which is really townsfolk for me were the children on the playground that make you feel rubbish.
yeah.
I'd say my youngest son is dealing with townsfolk at the minute, and then when you go and you have kids and you take them to school and you realize it's still the same cliques, and you're like,
Yes.
"Oh my god." I'm, I'm back in school.
Yeah,
It's those groups of people you feel uncomfortable around, and you think, "Oh, what are they saying about me?" But they're
yeah,
a big lesson, because you can sometimes think, is this me, or are they really
yes,
thinking that about me and saying that about me?
yeah,
So they can be good teachers, but yeah.
yeah. I agree with that. I think Pan I love because, like you say, we we forget how to laugh like children, don't we? That real
Yeah.
belly laugh, or just to be really silly. Or, I mean,
Yeah.
recently, I know you will have seen, we did that Tough Mudder and we were crawling in mud.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't done that since, I don't think I've ever really crawled in mud like that. But that again it's that inner child inside you.
Yeah.
And people kept saying that to us, like, just pretend you're 5, just go with it, and
Yeah. Go for it.
it's so liberating, so
Yeah.
liberating. But
It's so, I think Pan is so incredibly, like, I think the hard thing is we forget that as adults we can do the things we were told we weren't allowed to do as a kid. So
yes,
why don't we do them? Like,
yes,
why don't we go and crawl around in mud? And because when we were kids we were told, no, don't do that.
yeah,
And the amount of times as a parent I'm like, oh my god, I'm stifling their Pan. But I think I've got to wash those clothes. But when
yes,
I hope that they do Tough Mudder when they're older and they embrace that inner Pan,
yeah,
because it is so important because otherwise you can get to think, what's the point if you're not having fun and you can't laugh and everything's so serious? It's And also I think
yeah,
when you have a Pan, an inner child that doesn't feel heard and understood and loved, that's when you tend to turn to the poisoned apple, for example, which is like
yeah,
temptation of things that aren't good for you, because you're not listening to your inner child. And that's when we overreact. Whenever I'm overreacting in a situation, I have to say to myself, right, hang on a minute. I think my inner Pan is going to town here
yeah,
and worrying about things, because that's the child version of me that is scared, that doesn't know how to solve a problem, doesn't know how to do this, doesn't know how to do that, and thinks, oh, I need an adult.
yeah,
And so sometimes I have to say, right, hang on. I need to put my adult hat on and stop overreacting. I'm allowing that part of me that feels scared. And normally, because our brains protect ourselves, so when we
yeah,
experience something bad, it goes, oh my gosh, we can't do this, we know this hurts. Whereas as an adult, if you can step into your adult self and reassure your inner child, it's okay, I've got this, then you tend to be able to find a solution without all the worry, without all the stress.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm really pleased that you have included the townsfolk in this book, because it's very easy to pick a baddie or a good person, or like the fairy godmother, but actually the townsfolk is more like everyday, just niggles. They're not
Mm-hmm.
massive, but they build
Mm-hmm.
up and they build up. And
Yeah,
actually, being on social media, oh my goodness, there's so many townsfolk
full of
out
them,
there.
full of townsfolk.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%,
So
100%.
brilliant skill to be able to be
It's
like, okay,
to be able to step away and think, and also to see your own inner townsfolk, because we can all be a little bit judgmental. And
yes,
so when you can start to see that, you start to, if you think, oh my gosh, hang on a minute, I'm acting like a townsfolk, that is not where I want to be. They make me feel so uncomfortable.
yeah,
And again, I think actually one of my other favorite characters is a bystander. That was the last
yes,
character I added, and I didn't realize how important it was. And then I was like, oh my goodness,
yeah,
like, just your everyday person you never see again and you bump into, how important they are. You know,
yeah,
when you're having when you've had bad news and you bump into someone and they're just genuinely nice, and you don't know them, they're just nice and they're kind, and you think,
yeah,
oh, I wish the world was full of more people like you. But they have impacted your day and they have
yes,
changed your mood and lifted you up. And it's all those little people that you bump into. And I mean, I could go into all the characters. That's who the genie has placed them to say, come on, Beck, let's pull yourself out of this. Let's bump into someone who's really nice. It's just what you need.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly. And how often have we been having bad days and then we say, oh my God, that person's just restored my faith in humans. Like, there are
yeah, yeah,
nice humans.
yeah,
And that is
yeah,
exactly it. Exactly it.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and also, how many bystanders do we blame for everything? Like, oh, I can't believe they didn't say thank you. One of my things my husband does is, like when you're in your car, you're letting someone go and they don't put their hand up.
Yeah.
I am okay with that because I'm like, they could have just had a really bad phone call. I've been in
Yes.
that car where I haven't got the energy to do that. You know,
Yeah.
but isn't it funny how when if you're in a bad mood, if someone doesn't put their hand up and then someone doesn't open the door, and then, you know, all these bystanders have this effect on you. You think, wow, I don't even know these people.
Yes.
And they've had such an impact. And so it kind of makes you think, how can I act as a bystander to other people to make them feel good?
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. So I think that we have really like dangled the carrot for people now. They need to rush out and buy your book. So where can they find it? How do they buy it?
On Amazon, in hardback and Kindle version, and I'm currently recording the audiobook version of it. Halfway through that, which is super exciting.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Yeah. Although spending 8 hours talking, I thought I'd be all right, but actually I'm not that good at talking.
Different kind of talking, I guess.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
it's on Amazon.
That's so good. Oh, I hope everybody that's listening is tempted now to go and buy this book, because even if you haven't been through a massive trauma or you don't think there's anything wrong with you, you'll definitely be like, oh, wow.
It's nice to write about all the people, and it's nice to sometimes, and also, you know, I'm really like quite a calm, chilled person, but sometimes it's nice to have a good old vent. So to be able to write down and go, that person was an evil queen, can be really nice, because you don't have to tell them. You know, and you can just be like, oh my God, it's kind of nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us a little tiny insight into what's the second book? How's that gonna
that is all about the hero. So that's all about the main cat, us, and all of our inner characters. Well, as far as I'm aware, I mean, this book changed over 3 years. So it was due to come out in 2020 and it came out this year totally different. But yeah, I'm planning, what I'm writing at the minute is currently all about the hero and how we embody each of the characters that are in this one. And how all the different inner characters we have, like Jekyll and Hyde, Jiminy Cricket and Pinocchio, and there's so many more characters. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to read that. So I know it's going to be amazing. I know it is. The other thing that I want to talk to you about, because obviously the podcast is about wellness, and the book, your book, obviously is a big part of our wellness, but you also are a coach and you do tarot. So how has that impacted on your wellness? How has that helped you?
Oh my goodness, so much. So as a coach, my passion is teenagers. I like helping teenagers and their parents reconnect. And I think it can be so easy for miscommunication to ruin relationships at such a pivotal age. So that is like my coaching kind of niche. I love coaching young people. They're the next generation, so we've got to look after them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And tarot, oh, I love tarot. I've got a love-hate relationship with it always. I think that's quite natural to be like, I don't agree. But I love tarot. I've got such admiration for it, which is really bizarre because I came from such a skeptical background. So to be doing the things I do with tarot and all the different readings that I do, I feel really grateful. It's just amazing. Tarot is just amazing. I know you use oracle cards and things like that, and to get some clarity, to get some guidance from, and what I love about it is when you're doing tarot and I'm pulling for myself, I can read and do a reading online or something like that, and then so many people say, oh my God, that's exactly how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And you just think, yeah, that I totally believe in cyclical, like energy, and how we all go through similar feelings, and I think tarot can be reassuring. I think it can sometimes say it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
it's going to be okay. I love doing readings. I feel really grateful and privileged to be able to be trusted to do readings for people, because you're really touching in. What I love is when a client rocks up and they're like real closed off, and then I'll pull the cards and then I'll say, oh, okay, so this and this is happening, and they're like, oh, how did you know? And it's just, I love it because I think the inner child in me loves to believe in magic. And when you pull a card that has literally it's read your soul, it's like, oh, how did that happen? It's
That's a really good point, actually. I like the way you describe that. Like, maybe that's why I like oracle cards, for the same reason. It's just like the magic and the universe and all the
oh
things that you
yeah.
believe but don't necessarily talk about. It all just kind of,
Yeah.
it makes sense. It's calm.
100%, a hundred
Yeah.
percent. And I think I got really scared using tarot. We had, but totally, and then I had to kind of go through this. I was using it, and we kept getting the Tower card. And I don't know if you know that the Tower card is basically, it's kind of the card of things are about to like, it's like a tornado is coming through your life, and you
Yes.
can't do anything about it. So you just have to kind of accept it. And we kept getting the Tower card. And it was the year that we lost lots of family members. And so I actually stayed away from tarot for years, for about a
Okay.
year. But that was only because I got too, I gave it way too much power. Actually, it wasn't making things happen. It was just saying, be aware things aren't
Yeah.
so great right now. So just be mindful and be gentle with yourself instead of panicking and going, oh my God, oh my gosh. I just had it. I actually, the lesson was I just needed to be gentle with myself.
Yes.
Um, and I think, yeah, I think that's, I love how you can learn constantly through tarot.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful journey. Yeah, it's magical and I love it.
Yeah. How did tarot find you?
Um, how did tarot find me? So I years ago, I when I just I'll try and cut this short. My grandmother passed away, and my grandmother was really, really skeptical, and I would never have done tarot or spoken about, even past relatives. And my uncle died about 10 years before I was even born. Um, but I kept like I would talk to him as if he was alive. And actually, the reason there's a ladybird on the book is because when I was little, I would talk to ladybirds as if they were him and ask them
Oh,
for
okay.
advice and things like that. And that's yeah. So ladybirds are big for me.
Yeah.
Um, and so when my grandmother passed away, I remember thinking, oh my God, this is going to feel like I felt like he left. It was really weird. Like whoever I was talking to, I felt like they left, and it was really bizarre. And I went and I saw this medium, and she was like, "Oh, um, it'll maybe they've just done what they needed to do here, and blah blah blah." And I just felt like, no, I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
And then I just bought myself a tarot deck and thought, no, I need to find out the answers. I need to know where they've gone, why they've
Yes.
abandoned me. And actually, it was beautiful. I had a lovely meditation, and he came through and he said, we never left. Your grief just blocked us.
Ah.
And yeah, it was lovely. And so then I just kind of, yeah, that was it. I kind of went down the path of I loved that tarot will tell me what I'm not willing to tell myself.
Yes. Yeah, I was just thinking that actually when you were talking about it. It's amazing how many times I go to pull a card. I did it this morning. I always lay them out, travel my hand along until I know that I just want to stop. And in my head, I'd asked a question. I already knew the answer, but I was pretending that I didn't. And then I picked
Yeah.
up the card, which gave me the same answer. And I was still like, no, I don't think so.
No, absolutely not. Totally wrong.
Yeah.
And then you'll
I
pick
love
another
that.
and it'll be the same. It'll kind of reiterate what the last one said. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
whatever, what do you know?
And then I have my book. So I get the book out and read the intro. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we're all saying the same thing. It's fine. Just accept it.
It's so funny how and I love like even people that don't really like tarot and things like that, they will message me and say, everything you said is exactly what I'm going through. And it just really helped me to understand how to deal with it and how to look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer that things arrive for you to see right when you need
Oh
to. So that's
yeah,
exactly
a
that, isn't
hundred
it?
percent, a hundred
Yeah.
percent. And I think that's what, yeah, I think it's lovely because it can make someone, and also it can make you feel like you're meant, like even the most toughest things you can get through, and how to have faith, I think can be a big thing that tarot teaches you is just, do this, just have this kind of mindset and it will work out.
Yes.
And I think that's what's nice about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I've absolutely loved talking to you today. I
Oh
knew
my
it
God,
would be a good
it's
chat.
Oh,
Thank you so
thank you
much.
so much.
And yeah, let's get everybody out there buying your book because it is so good.
That was
So good.
amazing.
Can't wait for the second one.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you very much for being my guest today. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope you all enjoyed listening to that as much as I enjoyed chatting to Becci. That was brilliant. And her book is really worth reading. So you should all rush out and buy it. And I will make sure that all of the information for it is in the show notes. So thank you so much for listening today. And I will speak to you all very soon.